forward.
We have to read back to the terms that is.
So, we wanted to talk about the fireworks that are going off here in Boston and now around the country. If you've seen our vlog, we have spent the past 9 months traveling around the United States, starting from Seattle. We just arrived here in Boston, so we put out 70 episodes on that if you guys are curious and want to check out what those travels are all about. But for now, we're going to get into some more current events and topics and points of interest and other things we want to talk about. So today we're going to start off by discussing the fireworks. When we arrived here in Boston, it was just about the same time that the Black Lives Matter protests were starting to get going, and we didn't really know which direction they were going to go.
Yeah, there was some concern that it was going to be like violent protests, businesses were boarding up their windows, just up and down the street. It just kind of looked a little bit like a war zone, like people weren't sure what was coming.
And we're really glad to see that it has, at least the protesters have moved to a much more peaceful strategy, which we think is far more effective. However, this is far from over, and it is probably going to be one of the most important protest movements in the United States history, and we're really excited to see where this goes.
Yeah, it's also a really special time to be in Boston as these things are happening. We saw a die-in at the Boston Commons, and there were multiple vigils for George Floyd, which was awesome. Just a lot of people being safe and wearing masks, but doing important things that are important to the Black Lives Matter movement.
But what we're going to talk about here are kind of a side issue of those protests, which are these fireworks. First, when we got here, we heard some loud banging at night. I thought maybe it was the loading docks over at the St. Adam's Brewery, which is just around the corner from us.
I thought it was gunshots, but you were...
No, I was pretty sure it wasn't
quick to
gunshots.
debunk that.
Yeah. And then there was that echoey sound that comes from fireworks. I'm like, yeah, that's a firework. So Norelle wasn't sure, so you called the landlord.
Yeah, I called the landlady and, texted her really, and I was like, hey, do you know what's going on? Do you know what these sounds are? And she was like, oh yeah, this happens this time of year. Every year. It's, pre-4th of July funking.
But then it started escalating from there, and so
it was every night, constantly every night, into the wee hours, like until 2 a.m., sometimes later.
So current reports are saying that complaints to the police are up 2,000% year over year for this same time.
Yeah, we'll show the numbers right up here.
Yeah. So it's become very hard to ignore and nonstop, and something that is constantly on Twitter. Everybody is complaining about, and it's not just happening here either. It is now happening in New York and San Francisco and Chicago, Milwaukee, obviously, and a lot of places in the Northeast and also on the West Coast. And yeah, this has become kind of a serious global thing that fireworks are a form of protest from what we can tell, and people are trying to figure out how to stop them. It made perfect sense too that they were all linked to the protests because they were scaling up on a one-to-one basis. However, I saw this video on TikTok about a week ago that changed my opinion for about the past week until we started doing this research. I'll play it right here.
Do you really think that it's a coincidence that when protests against police brutality start, the city starts to sound like this every night? Complaints of illegal fireworks have gone up 80 times of what they were last year. And they're not little firecrackers. All these fireworks. Every night from 8:30 to 3:30 in the morning. These kind of fireworks are not cheap. Who has the money for this? Who's got all this extra money lying around? From the backyard of a precinct? The U.S. has used fireworks as a tactic of psychological warfare against protesters since the 1950s. It's a tactic to wear them down through sleep deprivation and heightened levels of anxiety. This was Harlem at 3 o'clock in the morning. A parade. They're doing it to create justification for not cutting the budget. In cities across the country, police have been retaliating through psychological warfare.
So that video, I honestly kind of assumed they're probably right. If the cops aren't setting them off, then they're probably supplying them for one reason or another. But as we did more research into it today, we ended up finding that, yes, some cops did supply fireworks in the early days of it for the reasons outlined in the video. However, they were also told to arrest those same people after they supplied them with the fireworks.
Yeah, the mayor of New York City has like enacted this full-on task force to deal with the problem.
And so now, you know, just kind of universally, the cops are trying to stop all these fireworks from happening. However, the protesters are getting a large amount of fireworks, like hundreds and hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of fireworks. And, you know, I told my brother over text, I was like, dude, somebody has to be bringing truckloads of these fireworks into the city. And that's crazy to me because they're illegal here.
Yeah, it was even a question for us weeks ago, like, how can you afford this many fireworks? Like,
Yeah.
where are you
But
getting
apparently they're taking road trips and just going to Pennsylvania and then bringing carloads of them back here and just, you know, circulating the supply among everybody. And, you know, I kind of get it, because when we look at kind of the pros and the cons of these fireworks as a legitimate form of protest, came up with, you know, a couple of main points. And the first one that, you know, I really see is that, you know, it's a great way to continue the protest after everybody goes home from the parks and public spaces where they're in danger from, you know, the cops, or, you know, they're in large groupings, which is not safe for COVID. And once people get here and they turn off their phones and they shut their computers for the night, there's a reminder that says, this is not over yet. We are still fighting this, right? And fireworks are a great American tradition, you know, that really goes all the way back to our founding. You know.
especially around this time of year?
Yeah, exactly. So it's kind of very truly American in a way to use fireworks as a celebration and a protest, right? And the other thing it also does that I think is really cool is it keeps those cops in check. It lets them know you can't stop us, right? It pulls away that sense of power that they have, and I do respect that. But there are some cons.
Yeah, I mean, it definitely promotes an environment of like unrest and agitation. It keeps people in a constant state of anxiety. And like worse than that, it's a risk to the people setting off the fireworks themselves and to others. We saw reports of a man who was injured while setting off fireworks. I know there are many, many more of them. There's also reports of innocent bystanders being hit by a firework. One guy got hit in the chest, and when first responders arrived on the scene, they thought he had been shot.
There was a lady who crashed into the store just around the corner here, and apparently somebody threw off a firework too close to her car. She freaked out and drove straight into the store.
There's also a video here, we'll show it, of like two young guys throwing a firework at a sleeping homeless man. And he was doing nothing. Like,
see, that undermines
not
the
okay.
whole thing, guys. It's like, you know, you get a dangerous thing, and, you know, if you use it responsibly, maybe it's okay, right? But if you let people who are not responsible or not understanding what the fireworks are supposed to be about, and you give them in the hands of stupid, angry kids, right? They're going to do stupid things, and then your entire cause is kind of lost for what you're doing. So that's definitely in the con category.
yeah, it also, I mean, obviously results in property damage, and it's a fire hazard. People are setting off these fireworks right in the middle of urban neighborhoods, right next to buildings in the heat of summer. Like, it's just not smart.
The other thing is like, guys, the essential workers have their hands full enough as it is. You don't need to be sending people into the ER with injuries that you guys caused by your stupidity, and, you know, adding to that workload, right?
Not only that, but it's keeping essential workers up very late at night when they have to get up super early in the morning to take care of everyone. So it's preventing them from getting the rest that they need in order to do the best job.
Yeah, we've seen also stories here in Boston of people who are having their PTSD triggered by this, people who are survivors of the Boston Marathon bombing, and other, you know, vets as well, who and other people who are sensitive to, you know, loud explosions. Not just people, but, you know, it also, you know, trickles down to, you scare kids, you scare pets, right? You leave trash everywhere, and it's just not responsible. So all those cons kind of negate the pros of keeping the movement alive after hours. and
Well,
putting
in-
the cops in check.
In the medium of setting
Right.
off fireworks, I mean, definitely keep it alive at all hours.
Right. Just do it in a safer way that has more respect and doesn't have the risk of getting out of control. And of course that's going to be more and more questionable where that line is between protest and celebration as we come around the corner to the 4th of July. And if you've seen some of my earlier videos, you all know I'm a big firework fan. And I don't just, light off fireworks. I make my own sometimes by Frankensteining some together and then getting creative with the little green G.I. Joes. So I like fire, right? But be responsible, right? And when it gets mixed with a movement like this that's so powerful, it becomes dangerous. So in conclusion, I am a huge supporter of what is happening in this country at a grassroots level for the Black Lives Matter movement, but also the pushback against the idiocracy of our leaders right now, and the old establishments that people had been following just because that was the status quo. It is time to, yes, push forward and demand much greater respect for everyone. But this might not be the best tool to accomplish that.
Yeah, I also support 100% the Black Lives Matter movement, and I believe in the protests that we're doing for justice for people of color.
Get out there
I
and
think those
march.
are 100% valid. But I don't think the fireworks and explosives should continue, and I don't think that they are the right method for continuing these protests. There are other ways that we can speak out, and we're doing them, but don't put yourself at risk and others at risk and cause harm or difficulty for people like essential workers and incredible stress for pets and kids and those suffering from PTSD. It's just not the right way to do it.
So that's our conclusion on the fireworks and the protests. Keep doing the protests, stop doing the fireworks, stay safe everybody. I'm doing this because we want you to give us a thumbs up. We're going to be doing this different format, just kind of covering different topics that interest us. And also as we kind of explore the Northeast as well, our channel is going to take on a different tone. So if you are interested or if you want to see our past videos, like and subscribe, and we'll be posting more often.
Cool. See you soon.
Let's go down.